Good evening. We're going to get started. To the mayor, thank you for bringing the gavel over. I really appreciate that. So we can call the meeting to order. We are just delighted to be here in Forest Park. It's a great community. We've all three been out here, some of us more frequently than others, but we're just thrilled to be here. As you know, we take a meeting out into the community once a month in the evening to make the meetings more accessible to the community. So we're just delighted to be here. So we generally start our meetings with introductions. So Jackie Pianiotto is over on the far right of the table. Next to me is Commissioner Todd Portune. To my immediate left is the Vice President of the Commission, Commissioner Summer Odumas. Next to her is Jeff Aluda, the County Administrator, and Legal Counsel Michael Friedman is at the end of the table. So we will start with a silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand if you can.
Sorry, Jack.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I will move that we approve of the minutes of the previous session.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fortune?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So also, our practice is to allow the mayor of the jurisdiction in which we are having our meeting to come up and tell us about all the great things happening in this community. And so Chuck Johnson is here. So Chuck, if you would come forward, and please do us the favor of introducing any council members that are in the room and, of course, this new city manager.
Good evening. First and foremost, I want to welcome you all to the city of Forest Park, those of you who are not residents and those of you who are. And I want to thank the county commissioners for bringing your meeting to Forest Park so that our citizens can see another level and branch of our government in action and at work. I would like to introduce those members of our city council who are present. That would be Councilwoman Diana Hervey, I see over there, and Councilwoman Chelsea Nuss. Also, we have some staff people here, but our new city manager, Mr. Donnie Jones. I want to especially recognize and thank our Public Works Director, Mr. Dave Bisking, for setting all this up and getting everything ready, and most of all, for making sure that the AC was working. So again, welcome to Forest Park. Have a good time and enjoy yourselves, and let's all enjoy the meeting and get all this information and this good information that the commissioners are going to pass on to us. And at this time, I would like for our city manager to come forward and give you, the commissioners, a brief overview of what we're doing in Forest Park, things we're working with in conjunction with the county commissioners.
Thank you.
Don?
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming. I want to echo what the mayor just said. For you, those of you who don't know me, I'm the new city manager up through about 3 months ago. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience up to this point, and we have a great community. Again, thank the county commissioners for bringing this meeting to our community and bringing it out into the other communities as well. That's a great program that they're doing. But again, perhaps the highest duty entrusted to any government is the stewardship of and the custody of public resources. Accountability, responsibility, and responsible stewardship is demonstrated through full transparency are key components to maintaining the public trust. With this spirit of trust and transparency in mind, we consider it vital that our citizens and our neighbors are kept informed and updated on the status of the various county programs that affect their quality of life. Tonight's commission meeting affords the citizens of Forest Park and our neighbors just that opportunity. Observe firsthand the workings of their county government, express their opinions and views in a safe and welcoming environment. Hosting this meeting is just one part of the city's collective focus on accountability, transparency, and responsiveness to the individuals and populations we serve. We hope this meeting provides you, the citizens, an opportunity to learn and participate, and inspires you to continue to be engaged in the workings of your county and your city government. We know the strong partnership with our residents and our county partners as well is the best way to work through the challenges and to realize opportunities. Forest Park is a proud and well-run and diverse community. Improving the quality of life for all of our citizens is foremost in our decision-making process. Improving our aging infrastructure and revitalization and redevelopment of our community are key to moving forward. The city and the county have been great partners, and we have much success which we can continue to do and which we're very proud of. A few of those things, I just want to list a few of. This building here was built with CDBG money provided by the county, so thank you for that. We're also working with the Hamilton County Development Corporation on comprehensive business retention program to identify existing companies that consider expansion and relocation. Redevelopment of vacant and underperforming commercial properties is a priority. In 2018, Hamilton County contributed a $150,000 grant from its Community and Economic Development Assistance Program to assist with a $4 million plus redevelopment of our North Point Shopping Center and other opportunities that exist within the 3 business districts of our city. We're working with the county on implementation of Federal Opportunity Zone on Northland to bring additional business investment to our city's original business district. We also partner with the HCDC on the Enterprise Zone program that helped us with numerous projects over the years, including recent expansions of Fry Fastening Systems, Cincinnati Testing Labs, and Emeritus. These companies recently invested over $20 million on projects involving the retention and creation of over 680 jobs within our community. Our Public Works Department and our Stormwater Utility recently with a grant of $25,000 secured through the Hamilton County Planning and Development. The city is moving forward with, in August, with an ADA installation for automatic doors and openers in our municipal building to bring it up to code for ADA compliance. Again, thank you for that grant. Street repairs, we're working forward with our street repair program. We're currently in development and grant applications for the municipal road funding, which again is controlled by the county, and we'll be applying for that in August, so we hope for your help in that as well. Our police and fire departments are working on several county and police agencies and researching records management software vendors. As you know, that may be aware, there was some issues with that throughout the county, and we are working with various county agencies to help solve that problem. One of the biggest programs that we have in our community, which really helps our citizens, is our police and fire department partner with the county as members of the Forest Park We Thrive community. It's a community outreach program. On May 9th, the first produce pop-up was held at the Forest Park Chapel, and donated produce and other items were distributed to over 67 local families in need. We look forward to continuing this program and the many great benefits it provides to our benefits to our residents. Again, we participate in with other county agencies in the Hamilton County Communication Centers. It's our desire to continue with that, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to have that funded, hopefully more so, by the county, and continue in that partnership with them. So that's a few things that are going on in our community and how we interact with the county. There's many others, but I just wanted to touch on a few. So again, thank you very much for attending this evening, Forest Park residents, neighbors from throughout the county, and thank you for having this meeting here and giving us the opportunity to interact with you directly. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you again so much for hosting us. We're really grateful. This is a great facility. And I know a number of us have been here for other occasions too. So, I'm going to jump right into public comment. Before I do that, we've got a number of speakers cards. Generally, any speakers card associated with an agenda item, we would save for that item, but I don't see any related to agenda items, so I'm going to take them all at the top of the meeting. But before we do that, I do want to note something. So these, the Customer Assistance Program flyers are in the back of the room where you came in. This is a program that is being run through MSD. It's a partnership between the county and the city, and it provides assistance for low-income seniors on their sewer bills. And so if people apply and are eligible, they will see some relief on their sewer bills. So I would encourage you, because I know people are going to be coming and going, to pick this up on the way out, pick up some for any friends that you think might qualify, because this is, we're very proud of the program, and we want you to help us let people know that it exists for the first time ever in Hamilton County. So with that, we're going to dive into the speakers cards, and I'm going to try to take these by way of topic. So the first one I have is for Senator Cecil Thomas. I saw Cecil in the back of the room. Oh, and I should have said that everybody, please come up to the podium. We have a timer. You have the pleasure of the floor for 2 minutes, and you will, is there the, is the yellow light somewhere? Oh, it's right here. All right, so this is a green, yellow, red, and so you will be able to kind of track your time by way of this little gadget up here on the table. So we ask you, so that we can hear from everyone and give everybody, enough time, please limit yourself to the 2 minutes so that we can get everybody in before it gets too dark outside. Senator Thomas, welcome.
Thank you. I have some documents that I offered for each member of the commission as well as the county administrator. And I come on behalf of, not as a senator, but as the vice president of the Greater Cincinnati chapter of the National Action Network. Bishop Bobby Hilton is president. I come on behalf of a concern as to the expenditures that have accumulated over the period of the prosecution of Judge Tracy Hunter. Obviously, we are aware that there's been a significant amount of expenditure. And I bring this to your attention. Those first 2 documents on the first 4 or 5 pages, those are where it says case preparation and investigation. My concern is, as the fiscal responsible agents of the county finances, this is a report from the investigator for the special prosecutor, and this is his account of what he did. And all it says is case preparation, case preparation. Now, as an attorney or anybody else, you have to give more detailed documentation. However, this was approved by Patrick Dressing as written. I find it very difficult to believe that that would be sufficient to pay over the 2 documents over $65,000 to the special investigator for the 2 special prosecutors that were assigned. Although I bring this to you simply because you all have fiscal responsibility, fiduciary responsibility, if you will, over the expenditures, and at least be able to hold those that presented this document accountable and have them please provide the proper information. So with that, I thank you. I ask that you also give consideration to the fact that Judge Hunter possibly could go to jail, and that you may make a statement on her behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Thomas. Our next speaker is, and forgive me if I mispronounce your name, Larissa Taylor Williams. Good evening. Oh, very good.
Thank you. Good evening. Okay, I'm Larissa Taylor Williams, and I'm here on behalf of the Honorable Judge Tracy Hunter, and we're asking the Hamilton County Commissioners and the city use the power of your office and call Hamilton County Prosecutor Joe Dieters and urge him to drop the charges against the Honorable Judge Tracy Hunter to protect our votes. Judge Nato refused to poll the jury per ORC 2945.77. When the jurors agreed upon the verdict, they must be conducted in the court by the officer having them in charge. Before the verdict is accepted, the jury is supposed to be polled at the request of either the prosecuting attorney or the defendant. If one of the jurors, upon being polled, declares that their verdict is not guilty, the jury must further deliberate upon the case. Basically, Judge Nato in Judge Tracy Hunter's case did not poll the jury, and it was illegal. And we're asking if you would use the power of your office to do something about that. After Judge Nato refused to poll the jury publicly, 3 African-American jurors signed sworn affidavits stating that guilty was not their verdict. Despite this revelation, Judge Nato refused to declare a mistrial or grant a new trial in regards to Judge Hunter. Additionally, Judge Hunter was denied a judicial immunity. The judge currently presiding over her case, Patrick Dinkelacker, ran over and killed a Black woman, but was never charged, and he is still a judge. We're asking you to use the power of your office to follow up on this and do something about it. And finally, the prosecutor, Joe Deters, who sued Hunter, secured a public contract with another elected official, however, was never charged with a crime, and the citizens of Cincinnati want to know why not. So if you could use the power of your office to make a difference and bring charges against Joe Deters. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. The next speaker is Reverend Robert Clary. Good evening.
Members of the council and present people, my name is Reverend David Robert Clary, honorary retired, a resident of College Hill. I'm here to remind us that this process started 8 to 9 years ago, and the county has paid the price of repeated court situations between the local, the appellate, the Supreme Court, and the federal judiciary. The trial itself cost probably in the neighborhood of $750,000, and it is my understanding that the state of Ohio would have done that for nothing. So I'm asking that you as county commissioners take charge of your budget, because it is our taxpayer money, and it has gone much beyond the $750,000, considering all of the court cases that have gone before the trial itself and following. So I'm here in support of Judge Hunter because the charges were bogus, the trial was a sham, and the result was not legal, judicial misconduct, as has been previously stated, that Judge Nadel refused to poll the jury, which is by state and federal law required. So I'm simply asking that, I don't know what you all can do, but you do control the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Iris Rowley. Good evening.
Good evening, President. To the commissioners, Commissioner Patoon Dumas, to the administrator, Jeff Aludo, the other people, and to the people in the audience. My name is Iris Rowley. I am a native Cincinnatian, a business owner of 18 years, one of the originators of the Cincinnati Black United Front and the collaborative agreement, which we've all benefit from. So negotiations and conversations and budgets and people's lives have been part of my life for the past 20 years and beyond. I come today to ask that the stewards of our tax dollars utilize their most greatest extent feasible in making sure that not one more dollar is poured into prosecuting Judge Tracy Hunter. We are rolling into the 10th year of this Black woman fighting for her life. We are rolling into the 10th year of trauma for not just Judge Hunter, but for her family, her church, her supportive community, for the county, for the state, for the city of Cincinnati, and for her supporters. This trauma has been magnified in the greatest way that we could ever see. I think this is the most horrendous case I've seen in my adult life. And so we're asking today that you all not extend one more dollar. I'm asking. We're in a budget crunch, as we see now. We got opioids that we're dealing with. We got jobs and family service that we're dealing with. And God knows we don't have enough affordable housing in the county. So why are we continuously spending money on something that is as horrendous as this case has been for the past 9.5 years? So we're asking that because we voted you in. And we voted you in with the opportunity and the inspiration that you would hear us and represent us too. And that it would not just be the biggest donors or the developers or the big money or big business, but those of us who are out here fighting every single day to make our city and county better. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kathy Tyler. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good.
I want to thank you this evening for the opportunity to speak to the commissioners. I appreciate this opportunity. As a business owner for 20 years in Hamilton County and a homeowner for 40, I have spent countless dollars on taxes. My business pays annually $4,000 for property taxes alone. I work with children and families, and I see the needs of children and families go unmet. I see them not be able to get enough medical insurance or child care, or so many things in the community for children and families go unmet. And I wanted to respectfully state my outrage for the allocation of millions of dollars spent on the malicious prosecution of Judge Tracy Hunter. I ask for more fiscal responsibility in the allocation of my tax dollars. I'm asking that you will use the power of your office to put an end to this travesty and have them dismiss the charges. And I want to demand that no more of my tax dollars be spent on this malicious prosecution. Enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Victoria Strawn. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening to everyone and to my Forest Park family. I apologize, my voice is a little raspy because I've been screaming and hollering for the last 2 weeks. I want to say I'm glad to be here in Forest Park. I plan on coming back to the jazz program that you all put on every year. So I just wanted to give you a shout on that. It's always very nice. Unfortunately, though, today I'm here to talk about Judge Hunter. As you can see, there are a lot of supporters in here. We have been going all around the city as well as the country, putting the word out on this travesty of justice, because that's what it's been. This is this county's first black juvenile court judge, and she should have been treated more respectfully than she has been. She's been written off as crazy, and she is not. She ran on rehabilitation, and so when she got in office, that is what she began to do, is rehabilitate the system to do what it's supposed to do. Yet she was met with resistance because she simply was not the candidate of their choice. That in and of itself is a problem. We know that there's cronyism out of this world in the county. You don't have to go very far to name the names, as well as Joseph Dieter, his mother-in-law, having run the juvenile court before, and he used all of his consolidated power to bring these false charges against her. The whole thing was a sham. It's probably one of the biggest shams in the state. And so we are asking that you all use your power that you have as stewards of this county to call this off. Use whatever power you have. I will also go as far to let you know that we are not only angry about all of what we're seeing. Some people already mentioned it, the dollars that are being spent and not allocated. We have poverty all over the place, housing problems going on. And what we are saying at this point, and I hate to put it out here like this, but we are willing to take this city back to where it was in 2001 and use the power that our forefathers left for us, and that is to boycott, to disrupt, and do whatever we need to do, especially if she goes to jail. So we are asking you all to consolidate your power with whoever you need to and have them cronies call off this sham trial that has cost the taxpayers millions of dollars.
Thank you. Next speaker is Dr. Vanessa Enoch.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thanks for allowing me to speak. Again, my name is Dr. Vanessa Enoch. Would everyone who is here on behalf of Judge Hunter please stand?
I didn't hear what she said. Okay.
These individuals represent citizens of Hamilton County who are outraged by what has happened over the past 10 years while this commission has funded this grave injustice of prosecuting an innocent woman for crimes she did not commit. I'm here to speak on behalf of these individuals as well as the Coalition for a Just Hamilton County and Judge Tracy Hunter. Her family has been residents of Forest Park for over 40 years and Hamilton County for her entire life. We are here to ask the county to stop spending money to prosecute this innocent woman. Judge Hunter's prosecution was an act of retaliation on the part of the prosecutor after she reported him for suing and representing her at the same time. Joe Dieter's brother, Dennis Dieters, secured a no-bid, multi-million-dollar public contract for his brother and for his cronies while a commissioner on this board. Joe Dieters and Justice Pat DeWine colluded in securing a public contract under the same statute that Judge Hunter was falsely charged and convicted under. However, they were never held accountable for that. We are asking that you stand against this grave injustice and that you put an end, use the power of your office to put an end to this grave injustice to Judge Tracy Hunter. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Kelly Prather is our next speaker. I also have a card from Leanne Howard. Are you here for this as well? All right, thank you.
Commissioners, thank you all so much for allowing me to speak. I am also here in support of Judge Tracy Hunter, and I think that Dr. Vanessa Enoch articulated it best. What we are seeing is the aiding and abetting of true injustice. Judge Tracy Hunter has worked tirelessly around the clock to dismantle the school-to-prison pipeline. What we're seeing in the courtrooms every day are court-appointed attorneys who are paid whatever they deem necessary based on the fact that they work for the judges, they support the judges, and this is a grave miscarriage of justice. What I'm asking you to do as a tax-paying citizen is to encourage Judge Dinkel-Lacker, Joseph Dieters, Beth Myers, NATO, anyone who had any involvement in this case to just allow Tracy Hunter, Judge Tracy Hunter, to live her life. Again, this is a grave miscarriage of justice, and as a tax-paying citizen, as Democrats, I mean, considering that Judge Tracy Hunter is a member of the Democratic Party, I would hope that you would stand in support of her. We know that countywide we have a 40,000 unit affordable housing shortage. We know that poverty is an all-time high. We know that we have to come and beg for funds for caregivers, for services for caregivers. And there are so many other bigger issues that we can deal with. But to continue wasting millions and millions of dollars kind of speaks to where your priorities lie. Prove to the citizens who entrusted you to sit in these positions that your priorities are not mile-aligned, that you care about taxpayer dollars, that you're not wasting our money, and stand with Judge Tracy Hunter. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. And we have one more speaker, Leanne Howard, related to Tracy Hunter, on this issue. Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioners. I also am here in support of Judge Hunter. And the thing that I'm so concerned about, as I read through the case history of all the things that went on, you know, with the stacking of the jury and the not allowing the jury to be polled and all these things, that there is a good old boy system in place and they're rubbing each other's back. And Judge Dinkel-Lacker, he actually was involved in a accident where a woman was killed. This was not properly investigated. I don't think it was. I'm not sure. But this is the same man who is going to pass sentence on Tracy, and it just feels like a deal was made. We'll let you off on this one if you help us out on that one. In addition, reading through the case history, you see that the prosecutor's office is just out of control. And I would like to ask the commissioners, at the least, could we have an audit of the confiscated, I forgot what it's called, you know, the drug, what's it called? Yeah, the forfeiture funds. Where are those funds going? And additionally, at a greater level, request that there is a, not more than an audit, but an investigation into the corruption of at the prosecutor's office, because there was just too much funny business going on. We have the literature, it's all in there, a timeline of how things went down. So that's my request, an audit at the minimum, an investigation into corruption. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. So Commissioner Portune, I know, wants to say something. He was here for a lot of this when it all started, but I want to ask Commissioner Summer-Odumas if you have any comments at this time, and if not, I know Commissioner Portune would like to make some comments.
Certainly have comments, but I'd like to hear from Commissioner Portune first, since he has a historical perspective on all of this.
Commissioner Portune.
Madam President, Madam Vice President, thank you for yielding to comment on this. As many of you know, I have been vocal about this issue for quite some time. Not just vocal, but have also taken action. I, on several occasions, as commissioner during the height of the litigation, did introduce legislation for the purpose of trying to withhold funding from the prosecutor's office. Those efforts relative to the prosecution of this case, those efforts did not succeed. They did not succeed largely for a couple of reasons. One, I was outvoted, so that's a quick way for that to happen. But second, under the Ohio Revised Code, the prosecutor's office has the right to go to the Common Pleas Court and request budget from the Common Pleas Court. It is the Common Pleas Court that, by virtue of special session of the court, establishes what the budget of the prosecutor's office is going to be relative to certain needs, and those needs relate to the salaries of attorneys and some other specified areas with respect to specific expenses to be incurred by the prosecutor's office. So as a consequence, while we are stewards of the budget by law, we lack the statutory authority to curtail the budget of the prosecutor's office to any degree that would be sufficient to block these kind of expenditures. I've tried. I've done this. I've introduced this legislation. I haven't sat silent on the sideline. I have been vocal about the fact that I do believe that the continued prosecution of Judge Hunter was wrong and should not be pursued. In addition, I testified on behalf of Judge Hunter at her trial. I was called as a witness and testified at her trial in connection with the allegations and charges that were made against her with respect to the criminal offenses. I will say that beyond all of those things, in terms of my stepping forward publicly in decrying what I felt was action that should be stopped, in addition to taking those steps, I did very clearly call for not only the end of the expenditure of money, but called for an audit of the amount of expenses that were being paid in connection with this particular matter. I would like to ask Senator Thomas, Cecil, the document that you handed to us is just a fraction of the expenditure summary, if I recall correctly. In fact, as many of you may know, on Tuesday of this week, I asked county administration to pull together a summary of the total amount of expenses that have been incurred, both out-of-pocket expenses paid by paid out of the prosecutor's office budget in connection with matters pertaining to Judge Hunter, and to the extent that we were able to come up with an estimate of the time value of the work of the attorneys in the prosecutor's office relative to the civil and criminal aspects of Judge Hunter, the civil issue being, of course, the issue relative to the vote count and whether there was a complete vote count or not in connection with her election as a judge, as a juvenile court judge. To my knowledge, the number, and Jeff Alludo, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe at a quick glance, quick effort at tabulating what those expenses have been, they're in excess of $2 million. Cecil, do you know what did your, both in the information that I was able to obtain, as well as your own individual efforts at obtaining, President Driehaus just handed me the list. So starting in 2011, and then taking us forward to today, and I do want to thank Jeff Alludo, our county administrator, John Brugan, county's budget director, and others for, on such short notice, pulling this document together. But the subtotal, if I'm reading this correctly, or total, of the line item by line item delineation of expenses, this document reads $2,121,662 spent. And this relates to the election case, to civil defense counsel expenses relative to appointed counsel, to the criminal prosecution related to appointed counsel, court reporters' pay in the criminal prosecution, and on down the line. The total amount at this quick summary from 2011 to date to the present time, $2,121,662. And Administrator Alludo, is this a complete, are you confident this is a complete summary of expenses, or just with respect to a quick effort? And I know that you only received this request on Tuesday afternoon. Is it possible that there are more expenses, or do you believe that this is a complete summary of the dollars spent?
I believe it's a complete estimate for the time period we had to work on. There could be some other things as far that are out there, but I couldn't say what they were at this point.
Okay, all right. Which, to me, is an extraordinary amount of money to be spent in connection with this particular matter. Senator Thomas, were you able to come up with any expenses that would yield a total greater than that amount?
Absolutely. I don't know if Mr. Administrator has any documentation of the Law Enforcement Trust Fund that he has access to. As of 2017, he had spent a total of $338,958.40 of asset forfeiture money paying lawyers relative to this case.
I have, just to summarize that for you, what's on the document that's been handed to me by President Driehaus, coming out of the Law Enforcement Trust Fund, we have, for the years 2015 to 2019, it looks like $181,424 to the law firm of Keating, Muthing, and Kleekamp. For the same time period, to the firm of McGuire and Schneider, also out of, and these are all out of the Law Enforcement Trust Fund just so that everyone knows. Paying appointed counsel, $29,463 out of the same fund to the firm of Shoemaker, Loop, and Kendrick. It looks like $150,924 to Isaac Wiles, Burkholder, and Teeter. Appointed counsel, $59,153. And to Chris Weist or Weist, I'm sorry, I don't know the correct pronunciation, so to Chris Weist or Weist, my apologies if I'm mispronouncing this, serving as appointed counsel, $13,755. And so quick summary of that, 30, 60, 93, 274, looks like $425,000 or so for outside counsel from the Law Enforcement Trust Fund during those time periods.
And Mr. Commissioner and ladies, commissioners, the irony of all of this is that the Attorney General's website, the Attorney General at the time was our current governor, Governor Mike DeWine. On his website, this all could have been done at no cost to the taxpayers of Hamilton County. It clearly states on the website, it says the special prosecution section can act upon request of the appropriate local authority as lead prosecution in cases where a conflict of interest exists.
Right.
And in other words, he could have simply requested rather than bringing individuals that were his personal attorneys. That is what's so concerning about this.
So what's that? Would you describe that issue for us, please?
The person, when Mr. Dieters was up at the state and he got himself into some issues up there, the two attorneys that are currently the special prosecutors against Judge Hunter were his personal attorneys that addressed the issues for him up at the state, and also his office when he went through his divorce. The office that that Croswell and Adams, the office of Croswell and Adams. Adams was his divorce attorney. In other words, I was concerned that Judge Meyer, who is the presiding judge of the court at the time, it was her responsibility to appoint an attorney, a special prosecutor. She only appointed the individuals that was recommended to her as indicated by a document that she filed. The question then, though, was she should have at least did due diligence to make sure that there was no conflict. But to give if you will, nearly $1 million contract to two attorneys that are his personal attorneys for his personal business, to give $1 million contract to those individuals is unconscionable in this county. This is why this whole discussion about this whole case being a farce was simply just to get her off the bench. So all I ask is that the county commissioners, that whatever authority that you all may have to look into this matter, to make sure that the taxpayer dollars were properly expended without any, I guess if you say any corrupt activity that may have taken place under this entire situation. He in essence gave a public contract to his personal attorneys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that further elaboration of the issues. Senator Thomas, appreciate your involvement in all of this. Notwithstanding that, what I think I hear you saying is that whether we have the legal authority to withhold funds that would put an end to this, which it's my understanding that we don't. We can't. And that has been tried. I've tried that and have proven unsuccessful in that effort, not just because I was outvoted, but in terms of the legal impediments to moving forward with that issue. We we lack the legal authority to be in any position to be able to block the expenditure of funds to be used for this purpose. Go ahead, Senator.
And,
You have a question?
yes, and you and I talked about this at a previous occasion. And as I had my staff research it up in Columbus, and we determined exactly what you had indicated, is that the statutory authority basically is with the judge. So I'm in the process. We'll be reintroducing legislation. I introduced the legislation. It didn't get the hearings needed, but I will reintroduce the legislation to try to fix this problem.
Good. Yeah, I think it should be. And we've found because in our budget this past year, as we scrutinized the prosecutor's budget and what has been requested in the past and presented to the Common Pleas Court in the past, and what's been approved in the past, is that historically it appeared as if, at least going back for the years that we were able to obtain records directly from the Court of Common Pleas relative to this issue, that during that time period there were requests that were made for monies for that office that exceeded what the statute allowed, and they were approved until this past year when I pressed the issue again. Our board then pressed the issue again, and the Court of Common Pleas revised their order relative to the amount of budget that was going to be authorized for the office, based upon that appeal that we made directly to the court on that matter. And so that at least is one step, one corrective measure that has occurred, not directly related to this case, but I would say as a consequence of this case and our efforts at looking at what our authority is and what we're able to do or not do. There have been corrections made regarding how that process is deployed by the Common Pleas Court and what ultimately the budget will be established at, based upon a strict reading of the statute. And what can and at the same time cannot be approved by the Common Pleas Court.
Yeah, we were able to determine, and you refreshed my memory when you was talking. We determined that some of the expenditures were over and above what was allowed by him to use the dollars for. And we know for a fact now that, and I will sit down with you and show those to you, that based on the way the statute is written, it's very limited into how the amount of money, not the amount, but the use of those dollars and how they're to be used. And he went way overboard in doing that. So I'll get with you on that.
I hope you will. And I would kind of close with this, which is that especially in light of the information that you have, all of you have brought to bear with the document that you have tendered to us regarding special prosecutions and what is permissible through the Office of the Ohio Attorney General. I think it is important that we revisit that aspect of these expenditures in connection with this matter. So as far as comments, those are my comments. I wish that, not only wish, but I have acted in my capacity as commissioner within the authority that I have in an effort to address this issue in the manner requested. We have learned what the answer to that is, to what that effort is. I think, my position on the, what's the word I'm looking for? My position as to the facts in support of continuing this case on are well established in terms of what I believe should be an outcome, but we have no authority to stop a prosecution. The prosecutor is an independently elected official. We lack, and this is one of those offices in county government where we just simply lack the authority, statutory and constitutionally, to be able to curb or block. But I'm on record as to what I think the correct outcome should be. Not just speaking out, but I've actually taken steps
Yes, you have.
relative to this. And I will continue to be helpful to you, Senator Thomas, regarding the need for corrective legislative action to be taken by the Ohio General Assembly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Additional comments?
Thank you, Madam President. Just a few things. Thank you also, Commissioner Portune, for some of that clarification. We certainly can look at the fiscal responsibility and whether or not we've used the money the way we should. I hear the fact that we cannot block the funding, but what we can do after the fact is to look at the funding and see if it was used appropriately and how it was allocated. So we do have some options as it relates to that. Of course, the fiscal part is extremely important, but for me, the emotional impact for Tracy Hunter is even more important to me. I thought about this, I read about it, I prayed about it. And to think about, for almost 10 years, to walk around with a concrete slab over your head, not knowing when it's going to fall, is something that I don't even know that I could deal with. And so just a strong person that she is to be able to handle that. And so I got a little philosophical, and you probably don't want to hear, but it helped me. It says that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Dr. Martin Luther King. So what we need to realize, this is not about Tracy Hunter.
No.
It's about all of us. It could happen to all of us. And so we can't look at this situation in isolation. She's the first African-American juvenile court judge. I'm the first African-American county commission. There, but for the grace of God, go I. I am Tracy Hunter. So as we look at this situation, it could happen to me, anybody else that wants to be a judge, that wants to be a commissioner. So we all need to gather together, not just black, white, young, old, whatever, and gather around this. This has gone on too long. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. I have decided that I am standing for Tracy Hunter. The bottom line is, let's get this over with. Let's be done with it. I understand that we can't, we technically, as we are the prosecutor's boss, you know, we can't make a mandate on him on what he should do. It would be illegal and unethical. And so we cannot do that. But what we can do is let justice take its road and see what happens. I believe that justice will prevail. Now, I'm also aware, and you guys have been in it much longer than me, but I also pray and hope that the decision that is made is not to circumvent her ability to become a judge again. So we want this issue to be dealt with finally, and to end all of this that's going on. It's just been too long, as I said before, and I just want to, and she knows that I support her, and I support not just her, but the next Tracy Hunter. I support myself, so I can lead the way for the next commissioner. So I thank you all for coming out and speaking your mind and being a voice for her. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to briefly weigh in, so I think you see that we all agree an inordinate amount of time and money has been spent on something, and we've got the numbers to prove it per Commissioner Portune. So while we can't do anything at this moment in time related to the dollars that have been spent, there are some actions that we can take in conjunction with Senator Thomas to try to rectify the situation and move forward in a better way to seek justice as we all intend to do in every case that's in front of the courts and in front of us. So thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it. And so we are going to, and I told you, I've organized these cards by way of topic. So the next speaker is Monique Mazenhalter.
Madam President, may I
Yes.
say one more thing, and this will truly be brief, which is uncharacteristic for me. But
We have a lot of speakers.
I understand. The question was raised, by some in the audience, can we, the board, fire the prosecutor? We cannot. We, the three of us, cannot. But the collective we, are the citizens who can. And there is an election for this office next year, for which the prosecutor has announced he is running for re-election. And so for those who stand with Judge Hunter, for those who believe that this prosecution should not have been pursued to the degree or the lengths at all that it has been, or even begun at all, to those who believe that a miscarriage of justice has occurred, you have the power. You have the power to address this issue. You have more power than any of us have. And as a consequence, I will close on just saying, that is the citizen's right and the citizen's prerogative. And those that believe that a strong decision otherwise needs to be made in this matter, that opportunity can be exercised in November of 2020. Okay.
Thank you. All right, Monique Mazenhalter. Thank you all for coming.
Oh, I hope you all stay. I'm only 2 minutes.
You have the pleasure of the floor for 2 minutes.
Really? I have a script. Hi, I'm Monique Mazenhalter. I'm here tonight to speak about my concerns about 4G and 5G small cell towers being installed in front of homes, schools, etc., Cincinnati's plan to become a smart city, and LED streetlights. The American Academy of Pediatrics and other health experts warn that exposure to all sources of cell phone and wireless radiation is very hard on children. Of course, exposure is cumulative, and anything that hurts kids eventually hurts the rest of us too, including our pets. It's not only about increased cancer risk. Since 2004, the International Association of Firefighters has opposed the use of their stations for cell towers and antennas due to health risks. Their websites includes many studies, including one conducted on firefighters themselves. In regard to 5G, the telecom industry still has not provided any scientific evidence that it's biologically or environmentally safe. Meteorologists, NASA, NOAA, security experts, and the U.S. Navy have also issued grave warnings about 5G due to other issues with this technology. In regard to LED streetlights, Local 12's Dwayne Pullman produced a segment in 2016 called LED City Streetlights, A Glowing Danger, which includes warnings issued by health and environmental experts, including the American Medical Association. I'm a member of Southwest Ohio for Responsible Technology, or SWORT. We have a Facebook page where we post information like this, all of it which I have spoken about at previous commissioners' meetings this calendar year when I've asked you all for help in raising awareness and trying to stop this from harming our communities. I've also made the same appeal to the Green Hills Council and Forest Parks. I've also provided examples of action being taken by other American elected officials to protect their communities from all of this. More continue to get involved every day. If any of you are trying to do anything about any of this, please let me know, and I will do whatever I can to help you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique.
Trustee LaBarbera. This is related to the CRA.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Jay Janis was going to yield his time to me. Do you do that at all? Where I can go over a little bit?
Yeah.
I can?
Is that okay with you? All right, so 4 minutes then, please.
The Capital Investment Group is asking you to give them a tax abatement through the Community Reinvestment Act, CRA, for this massive development they have on Kenwood Road in Sycamore Township, and I'm asking you to turn down this request. I'm the Sycamore Township trustee who voted no, and when I said no, I backed my answer with 7 pages of documentation, and I said I would not approve any TIF money unless they scaled back this project. Quick history lesson, this was a done deal before I got elected a year and a half ago. The administrator in our township urged them to buy the property and develop it. Regional planning recommended denial, too dense. Our own Sycamore zoning board said no, it's too dense, they denied it. Capital's own traffic study shows a projected 9 lanes of traffic on Kenwood Road. There are 4 lanes today. There were 8 public meetings attended by hundreds of people. The overwhelming majority were against this. You may have read the Cincinnati Enquirer investigative story, Is This a Conspiracy or Economic Progress? Front page story, and in it there was the backstory, including pay-for-play from residents accusing township trustees and certain individuals of taking money for playing. And they pointed to a $10,000 campaign contribution that was given to trustee Tom Weedman in a hidden LLC shortly before Election Day. Now Capital is coming back and they're asking you for a huge tax abatement through a CRA. Now, Harry Blanton is the vice president from HCDC, and he told us in a meeting recently the criteria related to despair for a CRA. And here's what he said. The area must include evidence of disinvestment in the structures located there, evidence that the structures have not been kept up. Well, they did a walk-by. This is how they do it. They do a walk-by. A young lady walked by for the inspection, and she graded 8 of the 24 parcels on a 1 to 5 scale. There were no 1s, there were no 5s. Most were 2s, 3s, and 4. An inventory of structures that are basically in reasonable condition. Capital's total cost was in excess of $10 million, and that's a big investment, and certainly doesn't meet the threshold of evidence of disinvestment. A CRA permits designated areas where investment has been lagging to encourage revitalization. This is ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. It's located across the street from one of the most successful malls in the whole Midwest. Capital Investment owned or controlled these structures over many years prior to this recent survey conducted by HCDC. So if the present conditions of these structures include evidence of disinvestment, then the fault has to lie with Capital Investments. The conditions identified reflect lack of corrective action by Capital, and essentially they are self-inflicted and self-serving. If you're looking for an area in Sycamore Township that could benefit from a CRA, I would suggest looking at Reading Road and the old Drake Motel area, or up north at our High Point community. Capital and asking for a CRA from you is just another way that they want to go around the will of the people in Sycamore Township. This is a massive construction. It's on 7 acres. 1 acre will be for detention, water detention. So basically 6 acres. You have 248 apartment buildings, 4 to 5 stories high, right buttoned up against a residential area, Frolic Drive, right next to Jewish Hospital, 2 6-story monstrous buildings. 1 will be an office building, 1 will be a hotel, 350 car parking garage, 1,200 parking spaces, and 3 restaurants. I sincerely ask you to please deny Capital Investments' request, and thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee, for being here. Our next speaker is Tom James. Good evening.
Good evening. First, let me say thanks for hosting another suburban meeting here. It's nice to come out to all of us out here in the burbs. This is a long way across the burbs for me, but I appreciate you all making the effort to be here and meeting in the evening for those of us who work. So thank you. Thanks to the mayor for hosting as well. I'm here to talk about the same thing Mr. LaBarber talked about, and although it's hard for a lawyer to do, I'll try to be briefer than the guy who talked before me. This CRA request is
You'll certainly be briefer than me.
I have no comment.
Well, this is the latest round in machinations that have been occurring in Sycamore over this project. The scope of those efforts has gone from the Ohio State House to the Commission, to the Port Authority, and others in the county as well. It's all a subsidy-seeking effort that seems to rival what FC Cincinnati has been up to. So the developer is very persistent in that. CRAs, TIFs, and other tax abatements can do a lot of good in distressed areas, no question about it. Mr. LaBarbera mentioned a few in Sycamore Township that could really benefit from it, such as High Point. Parts of Dillonvale might as well. But in Kenwood, their main purpose is to subsidize controversial, massively dense projects such as this one. They allow developers to build larger projects than the developer itself or its private financiers would be willing to risk their own money on. But they're happy to risk taxpayer dollars to make it bigger or have taxpayers subsidize it by not getting the tax revenues you'd otherwise get. Now, I'm all for sensible development. I'd love to see more of it in Sycamore, but this project is just too big for the reasons Mr. LaBarbera described. It's like me trying to fit my middle-aged waist and rear end into skinny jeans. It's not a good thing, and it doesn't really fit, and the spillover effect isn't pleasant for the people around. So we'd ask the county to consider not interfering in this project. It's going to cause a massive traffic increase, as Mr. LaBarbera noted. Let the developer build what the market will support, but let's not use taxpayer funds and scarce county resources and deprive the county of tax revenues it might otherwise receive to do this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Our next speaker is Tracy Hughes. Good evening.
Hi. I'm Tracy Hughes. I'm a resident of Sycamore Township, and my neighborhood abuts the capital investment project in Kenwood. And I'm just here because the Sycamore Township trustees recently passed a resolution supporting the CRA, so the capital investment applied for with HCDC. So you all will be hearing this probably in the next less than 60 days. And I am here to just ask you to not even entertain this application. The Kenwood Town Center area is not in need of redevelopment dollars. The Capital Investment Group started assembling this back in 2014. Any blight or anything like that is due to their lack of upkeep on the property. Mr. LaBarbera gave you the stats on it. Regional Planning recommended denying. Our zoning commission voted 5-1 against it. We have 2 trustees who support it. They don't have the votes to get TIF funds, so then now they're trying to get CRA dollars from you. This controversial development has the zoning they need. They should not be given incentives, public incentives or subsidies. There are many other neighborhoods in Hamilton County which would benefit from CRA subsidies. So I ask you not to entertain this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here on this topic. I know it's coming before us. I don't know the timing of it, but thank you for bringing it to our attention. Our next speaker is Vlasta Molot. Good evening.
I'm an independent, although I'd worked for Democrat Dennis Kucinich as a congressional fellow 20 years ago, and who has been dissed by the Democrats for daring to run against Obama in 2008 because they were hell-bent on having a black president, so he was basically let go, and he lost his congressional district. Anyway, I'm an immigrant, came legally, waited a year to get here. Although my mother was born in Pittsburgh, but she never claimed her citizenship, which would have saved me a year of waiting for my entrance visa legally. My grandpa came to Pittsburgh in 1907. I went to the census and found out there was a question about citizenship there, and he was listed as an alien, even though in 1920 he already lived here for 13 years and worked in a pickle factory. Anyway, my grandma came in 2013, and then they had a child, and my mother was born in 1920, but after the census was taken. Anyway, I just wanted to point out that all this is connected with the issues of the day. I was going to talk about DCDD, which is Deep County Double Dippers, because we have a lot of county officials who retire, get their full pension, and then they get rehired to the same position. And it's connected with the courts also, especially the real estate taxes and the sales taxes. And if you go to court to object to the taxes, you lose because it's all part of the deep county and the deep state, as we have seen with the county with the Tracy Hunter. So I think you need to do something about these deep county double dippers.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Teresa Bellman. This is related to Muddy Creek. Good evening.
Good evening. How is everyone tonight? So I'm just following up. I stood before you right about a month ago. We flooded on Father's Day, and at the last meeting I attended, the acting director of MSD indicated that they were going to apply for some OEMA funds to try to help residents along Muddy Creek out. And I was wondering if someone can provide an update.
Jeff, do we have the ability to provide an update?
Karen Ball is here, and I believe...
And Jack Rennekamp is here.
And some representatives from MSD. I believe we have, we're in the process of putting together a hazard mitigation grant. So, Jack, if you might be able to
Jack, could you come forward?
touch on that? Thank you.
Jack, I'm going to give you the pleasure of the floor for 2 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jack Rennekamp with MSD. So on July 10th, MSD applied for the pre-application of a pre-D or pre-disaster mitigation grant for 2 communities within Hamilton County, one being an area within Green Township along Muddy Creek Road, properties that have been impacted in the past, as well as within Northside and the properties that were impacted in June. That is simply an application. It is not a guarantee. It needs to be approved by the Ohio Emergency Management Agency. And once that is approved, then we will begin to submit the formal application.
Do you have a timing? Yes.
As to when they're going to respond, I believe it's going to take at least 2 months, please. August 8th. Okay. August 8th.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Thank you for being here. We don't have any more speakers' cards, and so we are going to move into the agenda. We'll move to comments and motions of commissioners. Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Thank you, Madam President. No comments other than also to thank everybody for allowing us to be here and back home again. I actually have my family Christmas parties in this same room. So I left here in 2005, resigned as mayor to run for county commissioner in 2006, kept that dream alive, and here I am today. So I just thank all of you. It's nice being back home, and also a resident of Forest Park for the past 32 years. And I just wanted to also indicate that I did attend a conference in Las Vegas, just got back a few days ago, the National County Commissioners Conference. Met a lot of great commissioners, learned a lot of new things, creative ideas that I'm going to provide to my fellow commissioners to see if we can implement some of those, or even at least consider some of those ways of saving money and doing things maybe a little differently. But I found out we're doing some great things that they are not doing. So that would end my comments,
Thank you,
Madam President.
Commissioner Fortune.
Madam President, thank you. I'll echo the comments of President Driehaus at the start of the meeting and Vice President Summer Dumas just now. Thank the mayor and members of council, city manager here in Forest Park for hosting us tonight, and all the good citizens of what is a great city in Hamilton County. A lot of stuff going on in Forest Park, and I would say to the citizens, you are very capably represented by your elected officials and by your city administration, who are actively working on all fronts to make Forest Park an even better community than it already is. So, we're grateful for the great work that is being done here. Forest Park will always have a special place in my heart, and we always try to have a personal connection to Forest Park, but way too many years ago than I will ever admit, when I ran for the Colerain High School track team. I set the track record in what was then the distance that we were competing at, the 880-yard run. It's more of a dash anymore than a run, but set the track record right over here in the inaugural year of Forest Park's new athletic outdoor facility when it was built. So every time I come here, I look back over there and I do fondly remember those days. I'm not running now. Thank you. Not running now, but that doesn't mean that I've given up hope on being able to run again. So there you have it. But thank you all for a great community here in Forest Park. You're doing wonderful, wonderful things. And thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I have one other thing.
Yes.
And that is, I would like to, if there's no objection, introduce a resolution pertaining to the Hamilton County Transportation Improvement District, if I may, if you'll allow me this opportunity.
With no objection.
We, last year, because of an opinion that was authored by then Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine, now governor, the ability of county commissioners to serve as seated members on a transportation improvement district was curtailed. And while that letter opinion was not solicited by Hamilton County and didn't deal specifically with us, it ended up with the result of all three of the members of the Hamilton County Board of County Commissioners who had been sitting on our TID having to withdraw as members with others appointed in our stead. This resolution that I'm presenting today would reinstate me as a member of the Transportation Improvement District. And I believe that both Commissioners Driehaus and Summer Dumas are going to continue with the, unless there's been some change since this was prepared, but are going to continue allowing the substitute or replacement TID board members to serve in their capacity, but I have requested the leave of the board to renew my service on the Transportation Improvement District. This resolution would allow that to occur, especially given the fact that the current chair of the TID, Mr. Eric Kearney, well known to most of us, has served in my capacity quite capably and admirably since January 24th of this year, and I want to take this opportunity to personally acclaim and very proudly support the great work that Mr. Kearney did during his time period as interim board member of the Transportation Improvement District. Eric did a great job. He understood when he was appointed that it was likely going to be a temporary assignment because legislation to correct the actions of Attorney General DeWine had already been prepared and was working its way through the General Assembly. But none of that in any way detracts from the great work that former Ohio State Senator Kearney did on all of our behalfs as a board member and as the chair of the TID during his service. Unless there's objection, Madam President.
I'm told that their legal counsel suggests that you not make the motion.
Very good.
So I will make the motion to approve of the resolution appointing Todd Fortune to the Hamilton County Transportation Improvement District.
Second.
Madam President?
Yes.
Before we vote, may I ask of legal counsel, in light of that, are you advising that I recuse myself from the vote as well?
I would suggest that if that's all right.
Very good. I will then, Madam President, ask leave of the board to recuse myself from the vote.
Yep.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, and I do want to recognize that Henry Frondorf and Jack Flume will continue to serve, and we're grateful for the
Thank you.
service they're providing to the county.
Thank you.
Is that the end of your by-lease?
That is the end of my by-lease.
All right, I just have a few things. One is that, hallelujah, let's dance a jig, the state budget was passed yesterday. A little late, better late than never. And from my understanding, we did okay in the state budget by reclaiming some of the dollars that have been taken away from the county over the past number of years. And so, Jeff, I'm wondering if you could provide us with a document that lays out what that looks like, whether it's indigent defense or local government funds or funds that may be coming back through child welfare, and try to help us get an understanding of what the line items are and dollar amounts associated to that, so that we can move forward then with an understanding of what the budget impacts are of what the state budget just did.
Be happy to do that, Madam President. As you mentioned, there's a host of items in this year's state budget bill that will be of assistance to counties across the state, Hamilton County specifically. You mentioned indigent defense. That is a significant assistance, and will be of significant assistance in our 2020 budget process and beyond. So I'd be happy to pull together a summary report for the board on that.
Thank you. And thanks to our state delegation, too, who I know understand the impacts of what those cuts meant to the county, and we're fighting for us to reclaim some of those dollars. Cecil Thomas, of course, was one of them. I don't know, I think he's left, but we're grateful to him and the rest of the delegation for fighting on our behalf at the state level. Secondly, we're honoring and celebrating Rose Lavelle tomorrow. As you know, the women's USA team won the World Cup. It was so very exciting, and Rose Lavelle scored in the final game, and it's just super exciting that she's from this area. And so there is going to be a rally on Fountain Square tomorrow at noon with Mayor Cranley, and we are also offering a proclamation for Rose Lavelle at the rally. And thank you to my colleagues for supporting that. I've got it here so we can all sign it. But it's all comers, and so I hope it's a big, huge celebration for her, and congratulations to her for scoring one of the winning goals for the game. So that's tomorrow. And then in addition to that, Marion Spencer, as we all know, has passed. We all knew her personally, but there is going to be an event on August 10th at 3 o'clock at the University of Cincinnati. It, again, is an all-comers event to celebrate the life of Marion Spencer and all that it meant to the people in this region. So I just wanted to have people get that on their radar in case they'd like to attend any of the above.
Madam President?
Yeah.
Not only would I join with you in your comments, but I do want to say as well with respect to Rose Lavelle that congratulations to her and to the U.S. Women's World Cup champion soccer team for taking advantage of the opportunity to use their profile in order to speak out publicly about the issue of equal pay for women, not just within the context of professional soccer or professional athletics, but in doing so, they really stepped forward and spoke out in favor of issues of equal pay across the board for women, issues that are no stranger to this board at all, and the actions that you, Madam President, have led incredibly so with respect to our own county family. And the whole issue of athletes being able to take advantage of the world stage is something that for setting the record straight or for advocating for equal civil, human, political rights on behalf of people is something that I had a firsthand knowledge with and was introduced around when I in college ran track for Tommy Smith, who very famously stood on the victory stand at Mexico City and raised his right fist in a black glove, protesting the treatment of African Americans, not just in sport, but in America and throughout the world. And so it's terrific to see these opportunities taken advantage of appropriately in order to draw attention to injustice in the world. So, great that we are doing this. Congratulations also to her and to the team for taking a stand against an injustice worldwide.
Thank you. All right. We will move on to I'm sorry, Jeff Aludo, you have a by-leave.
Thank you, Madam President.
Sorry.
And before I get to my by-leave, also just want to thank the mayor and welcome the city manager for allowing us to be out here this evening. We do enjoy a great relationship with Forest Park on many different levels. From a staffing perspective, you have some great individuals up here that we've had the pleasure of working with over the years. Just a few, former city manager Ray Hodges, we had Paul Brem, your economic development manager. Is Wright Gwynn still here? And he's been here for like 40 years. Okay. So just a huge number of people that we've had the pleasure of working with. So I want to thank you for the partnership over the years. The only real by-leave I have this evening, Commissioners, it's a little bit out of the ordinary, but I do want to submit a memo to the board. I'll pass this down one for the clerk as well. There's multiple copies there, and I do have extras for the public. But if you would indulge me just for a bit of explanation on the memo, I think the board is aware of the issue, but it relates to the Metropolitan Sewer District, in particular, the status of our local consent decree and potential costs associated with that consent decree. For the public who may be watching, as the board is aware, back in 2004, Hamilton County entered into a consent decree to address water quality issues associated with sanitary and combined sewer overflows in our community. Since that time, we've been implementing what has been known as Phase 1 of that consent decree, which ran through December 31st of 2018. That first phase alone cost an estimated $1.1 billion in 2006 dollars. That's not even in current dollars, but in 2006 dollars. Phase 2 is to begin in 2020 and is projected to cost an additional $2.3 billion, again in 2006 dollars. So as the board is painfully aware, between 2006 and 2015, we've seen a roughly 108% rate increase for our sewer rates in Hamilton County. A project proposal for Phase 2 of the consent decree was due to the federal regulators in June of 2018, June 30th of 18 to be precise. The county submitted a plan on June 20th of 2018. That plan calls for a 5-year Phase 2A, so we're breaking the Phase 2 down into multiple components with a cumulative 3% rate increase. The city also submitted a separate plan to the federal regulators, a 10-year plan with a higher cumulative rate increase. We have since asked the federal courts to confirm that the county's plan is the rightfully submitted plan and is the one that should be recognized by the federal regulators and implemented. In the meantime, however, unfortunately, last week we learned that the federal regulators sent the city and county notice that it was essentially doing an end run and cramming down its own version of a Phase 2A of the consent decree. This would be a 10-year, $1.97 billion plan, which over that period of time would raise rates by roughly 70% in our estimation. So I've submitted to the board a memo that I collaborated with our county MSD team and legal counsel on. So I wanted the board to have this. I do have extra copies here today. Ultimately, the memo has 3 recommendations. Number 1, for the board to allow me to instruct legal counsel to bring the regulators what essentially are violations of the consent decree and dispute resolution process to the court's attention, to inform MSD ratepayers, the community, and elected officials in Cincinnati, Columbus, and Washington, D.C., and to seek their support in opposing what we see as regulator overreach. The bottom line is that the regulator's plan that they've submitted, from our perspective, having reviewed this over the past week, is unaffordable for this community. It doesn't pay attention to the recently passed federal legislation promoting green infrastructure and integrated planning. And again, it violates the consent decree by ignoring considerations that are supposed to be included in the scheduled development of a phase 2. So with all of that said, again, I have, assuming the board permits me to move forward with these recommendations, I will do so with haste. I also have a resolution for the board. I'm not sure if it's in your by-leave package. It is in your by-leave package. A resolution for the board to pass on this particular issue as well, to seek to emphasize this issue to the community and seek the support of those in the community and the state level. So with that, I'd open up the floor for any questions or comments from the commissioners on this particular issue.
I just have a quick comment. I applaud how quickly you got this in front of us. This is significant. If the regulator's version of phase 2 were to be put forward, and as you call it, it's a cram down. I just want to repeat the total cost in 2019 dollars would be $1.97 billion with a B. And because of that very high cost, the cumulative rate increase is 70%. So that is untenable to this board, and I'm sure to the city. And so I appreciate the collaborative nature of the resolution that's in front of us so that we as a community in total can object to this overreach of the regulators and make our voices heard on the issue. So I appreciate that. Other comments or questions?
Well, Madam President, I also want to thank you, Jeff, for expediting this so quickly in this format so we can move it forward.
I want to thank, again, the entire MSD team as well as Assistant Administrator Holly Chrisman for helping pull this together.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes.
Yeah, I will weigh in the same manner. Thank you, Administrator Aludo. Also thank our team of legal counsel, both our outside counsel in the form of Mark Norman, Tony Osterlinger, but also from the prosecutor's office, Charlie Ennis, Michael Friedman, for their very good work as well in connection with this matter. And collectively, not only coming up with the legal arguments in opposition to what the regulators have done, but also a recommended strategy that we are now embracing and implementing with respect to action on this resolution.
Thank you. All right, so with that, I will move that we approve a resolution in front of us calling on all local officials and legislative bodies to join Hamilton County in opposing the unaffordable plan advanced by federal and state regulators on the county sewer district.
Second.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Commissioners. That completes my by-leaves.
Very good, thank you. We'll move to the regular agenda. Items 1 and 2, Jeff, I'm going to let you talk about these, but basically these are allowing us to do what we need to do with the auditor in order that we move levies forward at the end of the year. We heard from the TLRC last week or the week before about their recommendation. They did a lot of work on this. The consultants did some work, and the services being provided both through DDS and Family Services are critically important in this community, but they have recommended that we hold both of the levies flat. And so my understanding is that items 1 and 2 reflect that.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. That's exactly correct. I don't know that I have a whole lot more to say other than that, as you indicated, these are items 1 and 2. Item 1 relates to the Family Services and Treatment Levy related to a .34 of 1 mil to raise an estimated $6.2 million for a lot of our an array of services related to substance abuse, mental health, education, employment, and housing, particularly related to individuals in contact with the Justice Center, the justice system in Hamilton County, and many of these programs focus heavily on addressing issues related to the opioid epidemic in the community. Item number 2 is related to the development disabilities programs, the Development Disability community development disability programs in Hamilton County, and largely serving individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities by facilitating access to services, housing, education for infants, children, adults with developmental disabilities, et cetera. This is a 4.13 mil levy. As you indicated, both of these are flat, raising an estimated $73 to $74 million a year. So these, both of these resolutions will allow us to certify these millages to the auditor and to certify the millages and revenues. There is a public hearing coming up next Thursday, at which time on August 1st, after which on August 1st, the board will vote to certify these to the ballot through the Board of Elections. So this, at this point in time, is certifying to the auditor. The next step would be the public hearing and certifying to the Board of Elections.
Thank you for the reminder about the public hearing, yeah, because this is not the final action of the board. And just for an overview, just to remind people, there are 7 levies that are the purview of the county commission, and these, and in the context of the 7, this commission has raised 2 over the last couple of years, 1 for kids and 1 for seniors. And so while we recognize that there is a great deal of need for the services relative to these 2 levies, we are trying to also be sensitive to the property taxes and any kind of increase in the community and what kind of challenge that would be for property tax owners in Hamilton County. And so this again allows us to keep those 2 flat, continue to fund them at the current levels. So remind me, the public hearing again is
Yes, I believe it's the 25th, a week from today.
all right, it's the 25th at the Board of Elections.
Correct.
At 6:30. So if anybody would like to weigh in, you're more than welcome to attend that meeting. We would welcome the comment. So unless there are any questions or comments, I'm going to move to approve of items 1 and 2. Michael, do I need to read them?
No.
Okay, items 1 and 2 on the regular agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer-Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fortune?
Yes.
Thank you. County engineer is here, Ted Hubbard, in the front row. Welcome.
Good evening.
You've got items 3 through 10.
Great to be in Forest Park.
Yep.
I grew up down the street, so I'm a Springfield Township guy. So I know the area very well. Yeah, Finneytown. We used to play football out here, Todd. So I remember Forest Park. Interesting thing about Forest Park is I believe they had the first Homerama back in the 70s. I believe that's the case. The first Homerama, and I believe it was the first planned community in the state of Ohio. Is that correct? Yep.
Got a lot of nods going on.
I remember, I remember it well. So it's a great community, and I remember when it all started, actually. So I guess that puts me back with you, Todd, maybe a little further.
My father was the first principal at Finneytown High School.
Yes, he was. My brothers knew your father very well and thought very highly. After
my
we heard of
heavens.
Robert
Oh, my
Fortune, long before we heard of Todd
all right.
Fortune, long before we'd heard of Todd Fortune. So, Robert Fortune is a great person.
The old guys,
The
that's
old
right.
guys.
Yeah, we're going down memory lane now.
Yeah, we are.
Anyway, item 3 that we have before you is a resolution that would authorize an agreement with property owners for Van Blerkum Road. We still have some right-of-way issues that we need to finish up on. Item 4 pertains to a resolution that will will commence the bidding process for the replacement of the Keller Road Bridge. Keller Road. Item 5 pertains to a resolution that would authorize an agreement between Green Township and Hamilton County for a permanent highway easement on Race Road, for the Race Road Bridge. That's a project that we'll be pursuing this year. Item 6 pertains to a resolution that will commence with the bidding process to place thermoplastic on our county roadways at critical places. Thermoplastic is a pavement marking that is much more visible in areas that are highly traveled and intersections. It's great. Although we had to stop the contractor this year because he decided to do Winton and Galbraith at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We didn't think that was a good idea, so I went out personally and had a talk with him about that. So we don't want that to happen. But item 7 pertains to a resolution. Now this is interesting, that will place load limits on various bridges in Hamilton County. I want to talk a little bit about that. Historically, the bridge to load limiting was based on a gross vehicle weight of 40 tons or 80,000 pounds. What has happened is that the Federal Highway Administration, the Ohio Department of Transportation, now are requiring a more in-depth load rating on specific bridges at this point in time for special haul vehicles and emergency vehicles. And it's not just based on a gross weight of 40 tons, it's also based on the number of axles that the vehicle has. And so this is a little bit different. So we have several bridges, and the state's doing the same thing. You'll see these, you actually see these load limit signs that'll have pictures of trucks on it, and they'll say, you know, 2 axles, 30, 25 tons, that type of thing, very similar to that. And you may have seen them in other states, but you'll see this on state bridges as well, that actually cross the interstate. But what this resolution will address is a bridge on East Miami River Road, Rapid Run Road, Kemper Road, 5 Mile, and the 2 and 5 Mile Road in Anderson Township. So the load rating process we do with the state of Ohio, and on the bridges on some bridges we do need to, for emergency vehicles and for special haul vehicles, we do have to place these signs. So this resolution that is before you will allow for those signs to be placed. Okay, Resolution 8, I believe that's where we are now. No, excuse me, I got lost there when I switched over, excuse me. Item 7 pertains to a resolution, item 8, I'm sorry, my bad. Yeah. Excuse me, my bad. Item 8 pertains to a resolution for an agreement with the Village of Woodlawn to improve Lee Crest Road. This is an MRF agreement. Item 9 pertains to a report on the Dole annexation in Harrison, and this will set hearing dates for that. Excuse me, that's not correct. What this does is this basically tells you that we have reviewed the reviewed the materials that have come in. They are accurate. The plat is accurate, and 100% of the property owners have actually signed the petition. So as far as we're concerned, from a technical basis, they're in good standing. Okay, with that, I was going to talk about stormwater, but that's on your consent decree, or in your consent agenda. So if you want me to talk about that, we can, but I'll hold that unless you have questions.
Okay, so are there any questions related to items 3 through 10?
I have no questions.
No questions.
All right, I'm going to move that we approve of items 3 through 10 on our regular agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fortune?
Yes.
Thanks, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Mike.
Thanks, Ted. All right, next is item number 11, MSD, and Jack Rennekamp is coming forward to describe this item.
Item 11 on your agenda, Commissioners, is unfortunately a failed petition for a sewer assessment project on Heft Road in Green Township between the addresses of 5380 to 5563, involving 39 properties. Property owners, as the process works within MSD for local sewers, submit petitions, and then MSD polls the benefited or potentially benefited property owners. And under rules and regulations, there must be at least a 50% plus one majority, a sustainable majority. Unfortunately for this petition, it only had, out of the 39 property owners, it only had 10 that supported it, and 19 that opposed it, and 5 who didn't vote, who didn't respond to our polling effort. Therefore, we have to report back to you for enrollment in your record that this petition is now closed, it has failed. If property owners desire to take up the petition at a future point in time, either the same initiating property owner or owners or different ones, they're welcome to do so. This does not limit their ability to undertake that action in the future.
So what is the action of the board then? This is the first time
To
I've had one fail.
enter into the record.
Oh, okay. So the motion will be to enter into the record item number 11. Are there any questions or comments?
No questions.
No questions or comments.
Okay. All right. Well, then I will so move.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fortune?
Yes. Thank you.
And if you could let the mayor know that we've just passed a resolution related to the cram down, so
Yes.
we'll be in touch.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have consent agenda items, numbers 12 through 52. I want to highlight one of them. It's item number 26. It's a communication from Colerain Township requesting a street name change from Heritage Way to Dale Woods Way. And as we all may recall, Dale Woods was a Colerain Township police officer who was struck in the line of duty while responding to the scene of an accident. So I do want to note that. I think I don't want to pass this without noting his service to Hamilton County and to Colerain Township, and this it's significant recognition. So other than that, I've got no comments or questions.
We may have an older agenda. That new one that we had
I think
today.
the new one has that as item 27. I believe.
Oh, all right. I apologize. Very good. Are there any questions or comments related to any of the consent agenda items?
Yes, Madam President, I have a few questions.
Okay.
So, since we're on that page, I had a question about 29, I guess it's 30 now, as it relates to Human Resources, a table organization for the Facilities Department, the new position that was chosen. And I'd like to know, is that a new position or is that an additional position?
Yeah, I believe that's a new position to coordinate the capital repairs going on at the Almsden Deputy Building, Job and Family Services.
Okay, so my question is, who was doing it before? Or was anyone doing it before?
I don't know that we had anyone doing specific capital repair work for Job and Family for the Almsden Deputy Building. I don't know if John is available and can speak to that or not, but he may not still be here. So, no, there he is. So, John, I don't know if I don't think it's. I believe it's a new position specifically put in place to oversee some of the major capital work that's going to be going on at the Almsden Deputy Building.
Okay. Well, I know the salary is a fairly large salary, and I was thinking, was there any way to diversify or have somebody add on a responsibility, or rather than incorporating this large salary?
I think the idea here was that there were some other project managers within county facilities. I believe we had lost one recently, or?
Correct, right.
Okay. So they were down staff. And there's enough going on with JFS that there's the ability to add one on, which once they do rehire would then free their other project managers to concentrate on other things as well. And JFS was willing to fully fund this new project manager who would be exclusive to the Almsden Dupke building.
Okay. Thanks, John. Just a couple other comments. Since we have so many consent items from 12 to 53, I think. Just some general comments. First of all, I wanted to thank the director of JFS, Maura, if she's still here. She's still here, just being so receptive when I call her with questions as it relates to her department, her agency, just giving me the answers so quickly and helping me out to understand some things that are going on in JFS. But as I look at all these items, lots of money that we're spending, and I will continue to say that I think we need to diversify our vendors. Too often as I read these millions of dollars, they're the same companies and there's a repeat of the agreement. You know, it's an additional from 1 year to the second year. So as I said before, we need to throw the net out a little wider and look at some small businesses. And another thing that I continue to see is single sources, that the agency that we're giving the money to, they are a single source. In other words, they are the only ones that we think can provide this particular specific service. I would suggest maybe we have a provider's fair where whoever provides, I don't know, residential treatment, foster care, whatever, so we can get a better handle on who provides other services, because it's just, and once again, hard for me to believe that there's only one single person that can provide that. And I think we need to, of course, with our experience, and obviously they're doing a good job, the ones we're giving the money to, because we continue to give them the money. But I would like to maybe open up that pool to some small businesses. And as I mentioned earlier, renewals continue. And I think people need to possibly just work a little harder and not be guaranteed a renewal on some of these contracts. So that's just a general statement, because I was not going to go through all of them. I don't need to. But I just wanted to make that comment once again, and hopefully next year we'll see some new names in there for receiving some of the monies. That's all I have, Madam President.
Thank you. And so some of what you're talking about too has been the work of Robert Bell when it comes to the county departments. They're doing exactly what you're saying, which is make sure that everybody feels like they have an opportunity to bid on contracts at the county. And so I don't know if it would be helpful to expand on this. I don't know that tonight's appropriate because it's getting late, but maybe at a staff meeting, talk a little bit more about that kind of work related to JFS. And so maybe we could schedule that for a staff meeting in the future, to dig in a little bit, so as the concern doesn't go unanswered, but rather there's some understanding of not only the work of Robert, but the work going on at JFS related to your concerns.
Great.
So, yeah, and I just
Thank you.
visited Alter Crest, so I will weigh in on that at another time, but man, the work they're doing for JFS with kids that have multiple challenges, it's really amazing. So, all right, with that, are there any comments or questions? Commissioner Fortin? All right, so I will move that we approve of consent agenda items 12 through 53.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fortune?
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes.
If I could just very briefly, because he sat very patiently through this meeting, but City Manager Brian Riblet is here from the City of Montgomery, and he was here specifically, as the board is aware, we've been working for multiple years on a way to assist the City of Montgomery with the kickoff and the implementation of their Montgomery Gateway project that entailed the sale of certain county property to Montgomery, as well as working on a negotiated package with their TIF district that both helps the county receive some upfront dollars while also working in a way that allows them to continue to move forward with some of the infrastructure needed for that project and doesn't overly burden the project. So I just want to thank Brian for being here. I think it was a good back and forth discussion on all of this, and I think we have a win-win relationship that works for the county as well as for Montgomery. So I just want to thank Brian for being here.
Thank you. And that was the add-on, right? That was the item that...
That was,
Yeah,
yes. That's the one that
I
moved
didn't
everything
see on
down
the
the
agenda,
agenda,
so
so thanks,
I
Brian.
apologize, not trying to ignore you.
Yeah.
All right, the last thing we have on the agenda is the travel items, requesting authorization to travel at the county's expense, the auditor, 1 employee to Indianapolis, coroner, 2 employees to Louisville, and the engineer has an employee going to Sharonville. I'll move that we approve of, I know, right? I'll move that we approve of the travel item.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fortune?
Yes.
All right, we're finished. Thank you so much for having us out here. And with that, I'm going to move that we adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fortune?
Yes.
Thank you.